Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I've got a treat for you in the form of another top 10 video. We're going to be looking at the top 10 worst tanks in World of Tanks. Now obviously the term worst is quite subjective, so I'm going to be basing it off their global win ratio. And this is going to be for tiers 5 and up, and I'll probably do it for lower tier tanks in the future. And as always, the statistics have been taken from the incredible VB Addict website, where you can check out your statistics and also statistics of the rest of the World of Tanks player base. So without further ado, let's run down the top 10 worst vehicles in World of Tanks. At number 10, it is the AMX 5120. Just because this tier 9 French heavy tank has an autoloader doesn't mean that it is automatically going to be carrying its games. And while it is capable of doing 1600 damage, if it is of course able to penetrate all 4 of its 120mm shells that it carries in each magazine, the problem with this tank is that it's got such a long unload time, 3.33 seconds intra-clip reload, meaning that you take 10 seconds from the first shot to be able to do that damage. This often means that the AMX 5120 has to sit in front of its opponents for too long to be able to take them out, taking too many shots, and because its armor is absolutely horrific, it's unable to be able to bounce any of them. At its thickest, it's 100mm thick, and that just isn't going to cut it at tier 9. And even though this is one of the faster heavy tanks, and Wargaming have recently buffed its gun depression and its aim time, it's still limping behind the competition, only winning 47% of its games. In 9th place, it is the Su-122-54. This tier 9 Soviet tank destroyer has great DPM at 3000, but its alpha damage is amongst the lowest of the tier 9 tank destroyers at 440. But you might be wondering, well, you know, the Foch, that's got 120 alpha damage, right? Yeah, but recently that was given an autoloader, wasn't it? This 440 alpha damage just doesn't trade well. And when you combine this with the fact that the tank has god-awful hull armor, 100mm at the front, again, just like the 5120, that's not going to cut it at tier 9. And also 4 degrees of gun depression, making the tank ludicrously unflexible, and a very poor gun arc as well at 8 degrees to the left and 8 degrees to the right. Furthermore, the vehicle has a rather lackluster accuracy of 0.35 and mediocre aim time of 2.5 seconds. It just doesn't really have a purpose. It's not a sniper, it's not a brawler. And the confused nature of the tank has led to it having a 46.94% global win ratio. In 8th place, it is the Batchat 155-55. Wow, a self-propelled gun making this top 10 list. Let's see if any more will be popping up later on. No spoilers. And the reason why the Batchat is here is because it just has a very low caliber gun compared to the other self-propelled guns. As the name would suggest, it carries 155mm. That if you penetrate is going to do 750 damage, but it is hard to penetrate as the penetration is only 48mm. And if you miss the target, well, the splash radius is 8 meters in radius. This has led to the SPG just doing not enough damage. To put it into perspective, 3 of the other 4 tier 9 self-propelled guns are doing over 30 to 40% more damage than this vehicle on average. And so it looks like Wargaming pretty much forgot about the Batchat 155-55 when they were making all of the artillery changes in World of Tanks. And while there's no doubt that the vehicle is very fast indeed, it just doesn't look like the player base is making advantage of this and still staying inside the cap circle, which means that the Batchat 155-55 has got a 46.93% average global win ratio. In 7th place, it is the Jagdtiger 88. Well, we all know that the tier 8 premium tanks with preferential matchmaking really took a big old hit when the new matchmaker came into play. Preferential matchmaking tanks are not really meant to meet many tier 8s and tier 9s. They're meant to kind of be about tier 7.5. And when you play a tank like the Jagdtiger 88, which almost completely relies on its armor and just obliterating tier 6s and tier 7s, the fact that it's now meeting more tier 8s and tier 9s has reduced its win ratio to 46.8%. In addition to this, the Jagdtiger just doesn't really cut it as a tier 8 tank destroyer with regards to the caliber of the gun. An 88mm at tier 8? Its 240 alpha damage is less than half of the Rheinmetall Scorpion G, and its penetration is also flagging behind as well at 203mm base, and that's not going to go through many tier 8 premium tanks these days, let alone your tier 9 tanks. And it looks like the Jagdtiger 88 is truly the premium tank that time forgot. In 6th place, it is the FV215B. Wow, this was a surprise to me. The new Tier 10 British reward tank that everybody received when the Super Conqueror was put in the game as a replacement for it is only achieving a 46.57% win ratio. Now, the statistics of the tank haven't really changed. I guess what this is that maybe all of the good players have realized the Super Conqueror is borderline overpowered and have flocked to it. And maybe the only player base that's left behind are the mediocre players. And I've got to feel that because the FV215B used to have one of the highest win ratios of any of the Tier 10 heavy tanks. It's got enough hit points, it's got a AAA grade 120mm, at least when you put it on a heavy tank. And the vehicle still makes a fantastic duelist and certainly favors the kind of player who wants to not stop and just snap their shells in. And while there's no doubt that the Super Conqueror is the new kid on the block, and I think popular opinion believes it to be the superior vehicle, the FV215B seems to be suffering from a bit of the player base blues. In 5th place, it is the Tiger II. Oh, this really pains me. This was my first ever Tier 8 vehicle in World of Tanks, and when I first got it, I absolutely loved it. But I think it's maybe been left behind a little bit by all of the Tier 8 heavy tanks that are coming into the game that seem to just be stronger and stronger. And also, World of Tanks is suffering from arguably penetration power creep right now. It just seems like penetration's getting so much higher than when the Tiger II used to have to deal with its opponents back in the day. And when you've only got 150mm of frontal hull armor and 185mm of frontal turret armor, combine that with 80 on this side, the vehicle just doesn't seem to have the durability to be able to weather the storm and to use its rather decent 105mm round. This is one of the most accurate heavy tanks in the game at 0.31 accuracy with decent aim time and an okay rate of fire. But when you combine this, should we say B-grade gun, with also B-grade mobility and B-grade hull armor, it just doesn't seem to be cutting it. And the Tiger II is only winning 46.5% of its games. In 4th place, it is the Panther 88. Wow, finally a true stinker in this top 10 list. In fact, when this vehicle first went into the game, I believe it cost either 10,000 or 12,000 gold. And Wargaming was so embarrassed by its performance that not only did they reduce the cost of the tank to 7,300, they also gave a refund to everybody who purchased it at full price. The reason why the Panther 88 is such a stinker is that while it has a reasonable amount of gun depression, 8 degrees, and its gun statistics are amongst the best of any of the Tier 8 premium vehicles, its hull armor is just gigantic and absolutely atrocious. This thing has 85mm of frontal hull armor, 50 at the side and 120 on the turret. This thing is not very durable at all, and it will frequently get 1 or 2 shotted by Tier 10 vehicles. This has led to the Panther 88 having a global win ratio average of 46.33%. In 3rd place, it is the Leopard I. This Tier 10 German medium tank is over 3% worse with regards to global win ratio than its Tier 10 German brother, the E50M. And while this vehicle has the superior gun, mobility, view range, gun handling, there's one thing that it certainly doesn't have compared to the E50M, and that is hull armor. And when you combine this with the fact that the Leopard 1 is one of the biggest Tier 10 medium tanks, it doesn't bode well for the vehicle's durability. In turn, this has resulted in the Leopard 1 having a 46.05% win ratio, which begins to suggest to me that we are indeed seeing a pattern in this top 10 list. Any vehicle that is popular, has a large profile, and is very weakly armored, without having some other amazing trait, just seems to not be suitable for the average World of Tanks player. And while I personally enjoy playing the Leopard 1 as some kind of large reconnaissance sniper flanker, I can see why it has one of the worst global win ratios in World of Tanks. In 2nd place, it is the Indian Panzer. I can already see it in the comments down below. Lots of people calling all these German tanks underpowered and Soviet bias in World of Tanks. I don't think I can handle that many pitchforks, but why is the Indian Panzer struggling? And why is it the first vehicle in this list that breaks the 46% win ratio barrier and has 45.91% average win ratio? Well, statistically, everything about the Indian Panzer is okay. 2000 DPM, 212mm of penetration, 2.3 seconds aim time, 10 degrees of gun depression, a top speed limit of 55 kilometers an hour, and enough power to weight ratio to be able to get there. I guess what it comes down to is the 90 millimeters of all-round armor that this vehicle has, and a rather large profile. But more importantly, what I truly think this comes down to is the fact that a lot of new players grind their way up towards the Leopard I, and they have to play the Indian Panzer along the way. And when you do hit Tier 8, it can quite often be like hitting your head against a brick wall. And maybe the Indian Panzer is simply a vehicle that a lot of new players cut their teeth in at a very difficult stage of the game. And ladies and gentlemen, in first place it is the Churchill Gun Carrier. Could this possibly be the worst tank tier for tier in World of Tanks? Well, I think so. The vehicle has awful mobility. It's limited to 25 kilometers an hour, has a terrible power to weight ratio of 8.55. It has a big old profile. It's one of the most ugly looking tanks in the game, and when I zoom out in a second you're going to see that. And to top it all off, it has very mediocre view range at 340 meters and awful hull armor at 88.9 millimeters thick. The only saving grace of the Churchill Gun Carrier is that its gun recently had an alpha damage increase to 280, but even then its rate of fire is rather unimpressive, giving it a rather lackluster DPM of 1768. And to top it all off, you don't even have to play this tank. This vehicle comes as a branch off, a linking way to go from the Churchill 1 to the tank destroyer branch, the AT-7. And what's bizarre is that the AT-8 is now one of the most heavily armored tanks in World of Tanks tier for tier. You'd have to be a complete and utter masochist to want to play the Churchill Gun Carrier instead of the AT-8. And so the result is that the Churchill Gun Carrier has a whopping win ratio of 45.73%. Oh god, please don't vote for it. Please don't make me play it. And so that about covers it for today's video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know if any of these tanks completely surprised you, and also what would be your most requested top 10 list for a future video. And if you're watching this video as it's released, I've got a special showcase for you tonight where I'm going to be playing your most requested tier 8 premium tanks. And if you've always wondered just how that premium tank plays, then come and check it out right now, and I might give you a few ideas if you're looking to pick one up or not. Or maybe just a few tips and tricks as to how to deal with them effectively on the battlefield. And obviously tonight is New Year's Eve, so I'm going to be counting down to 2018 live on Twitch. But whatever you decide to get up to tonight, I hope you have a fantastic evening, however you choose to bring in 2018. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for your support in 2017. The channel continues to get bigger and bigger, more and more views, more and more feedback in the comments, more and more likes and dislikes on the videos. I really appreciate your interaction, and it really helps me grow my channel. And so a massive thank you to each and every one of you, because you enable me to do what I love, and for that you're always going to have my thanks. And so while I'm looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, have a lovely rest of 2017, and I'll see you in the new year. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.